समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
How bad is it for a chief minister to insult the president of India? Well, it's not just bad, it's disgraceful. The president of India is a symbol of our republic. All of us should respect the institution. We should respect the republic. We should respect our democracy. This is something we should all accept, but we should realize it's more important now than it ever has been. We live in a time when our institutions are losing respect. Some say they've been subverted, some say they've been suborned, but whatever it is, people believe that institutions no longer deserve respect or function fairly. Take the example of governors. From the time Indira Gandhi took office, the role of governor has become slightly dodgy and slightly dubious. Now governors function as hitmen for the state. They're usually people of no great competence. They're usually people who do what they're told. And I think the whole system and Indian democracy suffers because of that. That's true of many other institutions. As we speak, the Speaker of the House is facing attacks in Parliament on people who say that he's not doing a fair job. We've had similar instances with, say, the Vice Presidency. Why was Jagdeep Dhankar made to resign? What did he do wrong? What happened? We don't know. So we live in a situation where all of the institutions of democracy are under attack. We must therefore go out of our way to respect them, because a liberal democracy without institutions is not a democracy at all. It's mob rule, majority rule, dictatorship, authoritarian, whatever you want to call it. But the institutions are paramount. So all of us should respect the institution of the President of India. That's vital. It's not as though there haven't been problems with the government or state governments, central governments, and presidents before. There are two instances that stand out. One is in 1979, I think it was, possibly 78, when Sanjeeva Reddy was President of India and Morarji Desai was Prime Minister. Sanjeeva Reddy wrote to the Prime Minister complaining that all kinds of dodgy businessmen were being invited to Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now, the system is the card goes out saying the President of India invites you to a banquet in honor of so and so. But actually, the President doesn't do the guest list. The guest list is done by the Prime Minister's office, the External Affairs Ministry, and the President is obliged to invite these people. Sanjeeva Reddy felt that the Prime Minister's office was inviting dodgy businessmen and thereby lowering the status of the banquet. He gave the example of the Hindujas, who he regarded as not being suitable people. Now, there was a subtext to all this. Kanti Desai, Morarji Desai's son, who had a reputation for hanging out with dodgy businessmen, was a pal of the Hindujas. And Sanjeeva Reddy was making, therefore, a coded attack on the Prime Minister by using Kanti and the Hindujas. But nothing came of it. Morarji told him to get lost. There were no more dodgy businessmen invited, fortunately. But we never found out what was happening. We only know this because some years later, after Morarji left office, he took the files from the PMO, gave them to a journalist, and these letters turned up in the files. There's another more celebrated instance, and that's Gyani Zail Singh and Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi did not like Zail Singh. Zail Singh swore him in as Prime Minister. It should have been okay, but Rajiv believed till the end, I think, that Zail Singh had sabotaged peace negotiations in Punjab, had played some role in encouraging militants, and that Zail Singh now wanted to interfere in politics. Now, Rajiv had a right to those views. What he did not have a right to do was to demean the office of president. Like it or not, Zail Singh was president. He'd been appointed actually by Rajiv's brother, while all of us had been critical of the appointment. But once he'd been placed in Rashtrapati Bhavan, Rajiv should have respected him. In fact, Rajiv stopped going and briefing him. Traditionally, when the Prime Minister comes back after a foreign trip, he goes to Rashtrapati Bhavan, tells the President what happened. Rajiv stopped all that. Zail Singh was very, very upset. He didn't speak ever about it. He didn't speak about it ever in public, but his aides told people. Rajiv's aides issued contradictory briefings. But the opposition, sensing an opportunity, because at that stage Rajiv had this huge mammoth majority, went to Zail Singh and tried to encourage him to dismiss the Prime Minister. That would have created a constitutional crisis and Rajiv would have fallen. To Zail Singh's credit, despite his anger, despite everything else, he refused to become a pawn for the opposition. And ultimately, when he didn't get a second term, which should have been obvious to everyone, he went quietly. Again, we have two instances, including this one, where people never spoke about it publicly. I don't think Zail Singh ever made a statement against Rajiv. I don't think Rajiv ever made a statement against Zail Singh. Murarji and Sanjeeva Reddy, we wouldn't even have known about if Murarji hadn't taken the files and the letters had not made their way into the public domain. So while there have been problems in the relationship, they've always been sorted out behind closed doors. And there are precedents. There are functionaries who will do this for you, who will carry messages from one side to another. Politicians who are willing to settle the dispute will often function as mediators. Messages will go back and forth, and the crisis will remain behind closed doors. That is the Indian way, that is the precedent. Of course, presidents are human beings. Of course, politicians are more than human. Of course, there may be problems, but you don't let them get out. You solve them internally. You never let the world know, you never let the people of India know that that institution is in any kind of disrepute. Another instance, when Vajpayee became Prime Minister, he was worried that President K.R. Narayanan, a former communist who loathed the BJP, would not respect him. In fact, Narayanan went out of his way to respect Vajpayee because he felt he owed that to the office of Prime Minister, and Vajpayee in turn did that to Narayanan. Again, there were intermediaries, people who spoke. Gopal Gandhi from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, Brijesh Mishra for Vajpayee, who spoke to each other, sorted out whatever disputes there were. The institution never tumbled into any kind of squabbling. Why is all this important? Well, it's important because of the recent problems between the Chief Minister of Bengal and the President of India. The President of India has actually broken with this precedent. She's gone public in a speech. She complained about how she'd been treated. And almost as though you'd pressed a button within an hour of her making that speech, the tweet started. The Prime Minister tweeted, every single minister, every single foreign minister, every wannabe minister, all tweeted saying what a bad thing Mamata had done and how the president was being disrespected. Even poor Jaishankar, who should have been solving problems that India faced in a world in chaos, was made to send this kind of tweet. Now, I don't want to pass any judgment on the president because I believe the president should be above reproach. But in the interest of fairness, I will tell you what Mamata Banerjee's side says. They say that the president's complaints didn't amount to much. And in fact, if you look at her complaints were what? One, that Mamata didn't come to receive her. Two, that the West Bengal government made the organization that was hosting a function for her change the venue. And three, that there was no water in the bathroom. Yeah, really, that's one of her complaints. Now, she broke with Precedent at a speech to make these complaints. She singled out Mamata personally and she said, Mamata is like my little sister, so I don't understand how she could have done this. Now, this leads to many, many questions. First of all, should she have gone public? Nobody else has. And the slights have been much greater. Two, if Mamata is really your little sister, then you phone your little sister and you tell her. You don't need to make a public speech about it. And three, was she aware that she would become part of a political game? Which she has, in fact, become, because West Bengal is a state that's going to the polls. The moment the President of India attacked the Chief Minister of West Bengal and suggested that she was disrespecting the institution, the entire BJP machine swung into action. Should the President of India have gone to a state that's going to the polls where there's an opposition chief minister and attacked her publicly? I don't know. But these are important questions. These are questions that I think we will need to grapple with. Now, I don't necessarily accept Mamata's defense. And even if there was something in it, I think as citizens of India, we are obliged to take the side of the President of India because that institution is much too important. But we've got to ask ourselves, why did she do it? My theory, for what's what, is that she's an emotional person. She was not part of any conspiracy. She didn't really intend to help the BJP. She felt hurt and she spoke her mind. But that's the problem. If you're President of India, you can't do that. You can't be emotional. You can't be spontaneous. There are precedents. There are ways of handling this. There are procedures. You have every right to be unhappy because there's no water in your bathroom. But there are ways of communicating this. There are ways of getting apologies, which I think she would have got without going public. By going public, she broke what? Many, many decades of precedents. And she did it on grounds that I personally don't think were huge or full of constitutional significance. But at the end of the day, let's remember that these issues will be forgotten. We'll forget that nobody came to receive her or that the venue of a meeting was changed. What we will remember is that the president became the center of a political controversy, that her experiences, her words were used by the central government to attack an opposition state government just before an election. That's not a good look for the president. It's not a good look for the institution. We need to put this episode behind us. We need to look forward and we need to respect the institution.